Good morning, this is Paul Harris at the BMO Global Metals and Mining Conference. I'm joined this morning with Frank Holmes, CEO and Chief Investment Officer of US Global. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Paul. It's great to be with you.
Likewise, how are you doing today?
Bien, bien, bien.
Excellent. I guess one of the key talking points here is how gold spiked yesterday, how the Dow had a big dive yesterday. How do you see, because of coronavirus threats and fear about that, what's your take on that?
Well, it's not good for stocks as a whole, so anyone that thinks that the coronavirus is going to be good for gold stocks is foolish, because you have to have confidence in the great run from 2002 to 2007 was a bull market in stocks and a bull market in gold. So we need both engines synchronized. But I think this coronavirus is much more serious than SARS because it impacted flying. SARS never stopped flights from traveling all over and these cases, but supposing now the treatment of malaria is at a high success rate, 80% success rate in dealing with the coronavirus.
And the treatment for malaria, that's quinine?
Quinine?
Drinking some gin?
No, I don't want some gin, but you got to have some...
the soda water, the tonic water, yeah. Okay, so that's obviously been a talking point here at the BMO event. What other sort of talking points have you sort of picked up on that you think are very sort of pertinent?
Well, I thought that Mark Bristow did a phenomenal job about the transition, what he's done at Barrick. So what they call the macro RTO. Randgold doing an inverse takeover basically of Barrick, dropping his debt by 40%, increasing his dividend. I'm a big believer, Paul, that by June of this year, we're going to get 3-year numbers that all of a sudden the gold mining companies are going to be showing faster growth in revenue per share, higher profit margins, higher returns of capital. They're going to look like S&P stocks as a whole, and all of a sudden you're going to get the generalists coming in to buy them.
Is that what's necessary, that the gold miners, the miners have to start looking and appearing like other?
We're all-time low. The biggest buyers of the generalists buy are the royalty companies. And why not? I just saw Randy Smallwood talk about Wheaton Precious. I mean, you're talking about a company with 75% gross profit margins like a tech company. You're talking about a company that has $650 million of free cash flow. Very few companies in Canada have that amount of free cash flow. They're going to pay out 30% in dividends. If you look at the universe, because their profit margin is so high and the cash flow is so high, there's $20 million of free cash flow per employee. Goldman Sachs is $1 million of revenue. So I think that the royalty companies are going to lead the way. And I take a look at the big room here that's behind us. It's the bigger mining companies. And the little room are the royalty companies. And the royalty companies make much more profit margins, much higher returns on invested capital. When we're going to know we're cresting at a peak when they're dominating the room behind us, Paul. Okay.
A few years ago, you set up the Go Gold ETF as a vehicle for, I guess, generalist investors or investors, non-specialist investors to get access to the gold space and some of the better companies out there. Are you starting to see a bigger influx of generalist investors?
Well, there's more smarter investors coming in, and that's what they call smart beta. And how it's created is that 30% are royalty companies. The three big amigos, Royal Gold, the biggest is Franco-Nevada, and Wheaton Precious, and they recalibrate each quarter. Then I pick 25 other names, from biggest market cap down to smallest. I go down to $200 million market caps, and then when I go outside of the US, I basically shrink the risk, and with that, I high grade it. Every quarter, if you're not very attractive on your revenue per share, your cash flow per share, last quarter over 4 quarters, you're gone. If you're not showing attractive profit margins, EBITDA growth relative to your enterprise value, you're gone. So I found several factors that in our back testing outperform the GDX 90% of the time rolling back, going over 12 years. So this is a smart way of picking these gold stocks.
And the core positions are the royalty companies you talked about
30%.
Previously. Yeah, okay. We've seen a consolidation start to come to the sector again. Obviously here last year there was a couple of big M&A transactions. More recently we've seen more sort of medium scale companies doing transactions. Do you see that continuing, or is there more play there?
What also Mark Bristow talked about is peak gold. And he showed it. And he showed that this is a serious issue. and it's very hard for Barrick to turn around or Newmont to really get big growth. They have to maintain their production, not greatly expand it. So I think that there's going to be lots of M&A work to turn around and try to make sure they're maintaining that growth profile or actually being stable. And you're seeing the Chinese going into Colombia. We're seeing that they're looking for growth, and they have to go and take different risks around the world to look for growth. So I'm very bullish.
One of the companies you've been involved in for a number of years, Gran Colombia Gold, they're, if you like, going the opposite direction. They're sort of splitting out one of their assets to, is that a different way of unlocking value, or are they really sort of trying to position the core company for potential to being taken over by somebody else, high-grade gold production?
It could be, but I think it's much more following the Lucas Lundin model. Lucas Lundin has spun out many companies because he wasn't getting value for them, and 101 became 11, not 2. Yeah. So I think that Serafino, his theory is to basically follow a great investor like Lucas Lundin that's done this successfully. Ross Beatty has done this successfully when he did Lumina Copper, basically building that and then spinning out with selling the assets. So I think that that's the thought process. And I love the gold notes, the Gran Colombia gold notes. Why put your money in a money fund when you could turn around and is listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange and get monthly dividends?
Except you pretty much bought them all, didn't you? So nobody else got...
No. But it's a beautiful piece of paper. Yeah. And now they're buying them back every quarter, so they're shrinking the number of bonds outstanding by 6%. But as gold goes higher, they pay you more.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's a pleasure speaking with you.
We haven't finished though. We haven't finished. Look up. See rhodium. See how high rhodium went. Why can't gold do that? Rhodium? But think about it. Everyone's so shocked. A year ago, who would have called palladium 2,700? Yeah. If I said that and walking around here, they think I was smoking THC stuff. Right? No, it's real. And the palladium, if you restrict the supply and there's a demand, then you can all of a sudden see 2,700. And rhodium, it goes from 1,700 to 13,000. Why can't gold go to 10,000? All this money printing, all this funny money printing. And what you're seeing in Switzerland is they're buying Apple, they're buying stocks. So what happens if all of a sudden they start printing this funny zero coupon money and they start buying gold? I think that you can wake up and all of a sudden gold's 2,700. It's really this year.
I mean, it's certainly food for thought.
Yeah, so don't be everyone's so quick to be negative, but I will tell you, Paul, they're very cautious here. This is not a runaway bullish scenario, buying everything, doing deals. People are very pragmatic, very thoughtful what they're doing, and I'm a big believer that any of the royalty companies are probably the best way for a new investor to go into the space. And then there's the special stories like the gold notes of Gran Colombia, which is another great performing stock. I think that's where people are going to be focused on.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us this morning, Frank. And thanks for watching, and stay tuned to kitco.com for more from the BMO Global Metals and Mining Conference.
Look up, Paul. Look up.